Hello, Mark here from Rockin Walls. If you're new to the channel, let me just tell you a little bit about myself real quick. I'm a certified dry stone waller with the Dry Stone Conservancy at level 2, which is Journeyman out of 3 levels, and then also with the Dry Stone Walling Association of Great Britain, level 3 out of 4 levels. I'm currently only like 1 of 14 in the US at this time at that level of certification. Also certified as an instructor and have a training site in Hampstead, Maryland. So if you're looking to take some workshops, come on out, Rockin Walls Training Center, and check them out. Also, if you could and you would like to support our channel, check out our Amazon shop. We have a lot of different cool products that I use personally, and that's why I have them listed there. So if you could, that's a great way to support me in this channel. So let me get into this. Behind me here, I'm building with boulders, and these boulders are from a job site. They were shipped in, and basically doing the best that I can with what I have. Now this, while it might not be something that you're going to do at home or ever with the size stones like this, if you do, I'll show you what I'm doing. But regardless, the same things I'm doing here and thinking about are the same things you do on any scale wall. So let me get into some of those methods and some things that you would want to try to avoid if you could. But life's all about compromises, and working with stone, it teaches you life lessons. So let me go ahead and show you some of those lessons that I'm learning. Okay, so we're going to start down here at the very end. I've basically included a boulder here at the end, something that people could sit on. Now, a couple things to think about. As you can see, for the most part, I have to work with what I have. I'm trying to build on course, which means that for the most part, I'm trying to stay on a certain line all the way through so that the next batch of stones can sit on top of it. Looking for really nice stones with nice faces for the front. And as I'm getting to the top, I'm starting to run out of all my stones that my favorite stones, which I picked out and used on the bottom. So I'm trying to make the best of what I have left at this time. Now, a few things to think about. Now, this, for example, right here, this is kind of like almost like a 3-up running joint. You have these smaller stones here, and this stone here is taking weight load on there, and then that's kind of going across. For the most part, you want to try to avoid 3-up joints. Sometimes it's not possible, but for the most part, you want to try to break your joints. And as you can see here, breaking the joint with these 2/1, and then, same thing, 2/1. And that's really key. So this long one here is the end of the wall, and I'll get into that when we walk up top. But let's just walk down here a little bit. So as we get back into this, a couple other things to think about. Right here, have a really nice break in the joint here. This one's got weight load right there. This one also has weight load right on top of that. But there's also what's called zipper joints in walls. Now this joint's, it's covered okay. But for the most part, you want the stone to be breaking the joint by either 50% or at least 25%. So that's not horrible. The weight load from this stone is hitting this one, which is now putting it right there at that point there. But you can sometimes have what's called a zipper joint, where they're just like short joints, and that's something to be mindful of. As we walk down here, same thing. This one here has got point of contact right here, but this is actually a fairly short joint. This joint right here is actually covered pretty well, and then that one's covered. Trying to break it there best we can. When you have a large stone like this is referred to as a jumper. So you could actually have like 20 stones next to a big stone, and that's okay. That's called a jumper, so you're breaking your course. Now right here, this is a great example. This is a 3-up running joint. We had that really long one there, which then created this. You have a long one there. So 3-up running joint. Hey, no problem, but as I get further up, I got to break it. So that's what I'm doing. Great weight load here, great weight load on that. So that's solving that problem. And as we come around, There was a tree left here that was cut, so that was kind of critical. Had to make sure these guys are all length going in. That's what you always want to make sure your stones are always length in. And then I basically just did a bridge. So same thing, have a really long one here that the client put in and had to work with that. So I have the bridge going across so that if this ever rots, basically the weight load from here is all sitting there and sitting over here, which is really critical. Come around here to the corner. And then what's important, you know, same thing, this tree here is dead, but I'm trying to make sure I'm creating an end of a wall like a cheek end or a wall head. So I have the longer ones, these, this one, and this one are lengths going in. So those are 3 long ones going back in. And then these guys go bridge across. So I'm really trying to get that. Now this one right here is length going back, which as we walk around, you can see how far that comes back in. So that's pretty long. And then same thing, that top one there, it's almost about the top of the wall. So let's go ahead and stop and let's head up to the top of the wall here so I can show you what the top looks like. And once again, these construction methods are the same thing you could use on any size wall. Okay, so back to the top here, pull out my fancy pointer. Basically, you can see that stone there, you know, it was sitting on that long one underneath of it, came back. Now I've taken these guys and I've done long ones going back here. So each layer is kind of like long this way, well, just like the tape measure, long that way. And then I'm taking these and then I'm putting them long that way. So I'm barely trying to lock everything in so they have a nice strong corner here, you know, and these are boulders. They're not flat bedded, you know, books, you know, or telephone books that I'm stacking. Now with the wall itself, what's really critical, we'll kind of come around so you can see what's going on here with the construction. At the bottom of this wall is currently about 7 feet. At the bottom, it's about 5 feet wide. And we'll just go up here. And as you may or may not notice, we have a front wall and a back wall. So we can really see that right up here. So when you're building your stone walls, retaining wall, freestanding wall, I always like to think of 3 steps. Step 1, front stone. Step 2, back stone. Step 3, packing or harding in the middle. You don't want anything to be, especially with a retaining wall, you never want anything to be higher in the back or middle than your front stone. So set your front stone and then set your back stone. Then if you do your packing or harding in the middle. And harding is basically the heart of the wall. That's really critical. It keeps everything locked in. It keeps it from imploding. So let's walk down here and we can really kind of see. So same thing on this end, just everything kind of laying length back in that way. You know, normally when you're setting your dry stone walls, your faces, you typically want them laid this way. And as you can see, these guys right here, they're laying length in. So we want to get that weight load into the wall. Now this one here, this face stone is not very attractive, nor is the other one further down. But this almost acts like a tie stone where it ties the front wall to the back wall. I don't have a lot of those. Once again, they don't have really attractive faces. But, you know, when you have them and you can put them in something like this, you just kind of have to put them in randomly wherever they seem to fit, because this wall really doesn't allow you, since it's more of a rubble wall, it doesn't really dictate a specific spot at a specific height. Normally, you would put them in on walls over 30 inches. Which I normally put them in at 36 inches, and that would be at like knee height. So back to our construction here. And you know, some of the other reasons too for doing these like the base at 5 feet, a stone like this is 2 feet wide. So I look for my nice face stones for the front, and then I just try to find maybe stones that really, like, while this has a face, you always want to look for your lengths. So technically I'd want to look at this face because that's my length, or I'd want to look at this face. Now, you know, flip that over and that's not a bad face, so I could possibly use that. But say that wasn't really a good face, that might be a back wall stone. So you want to look at your stones no matter what size they are and determine what's the front, what's really something you just want to put in the back of the wall that you don't need but still has some mass. Still keeping your lengths going in. So once you set your back stones, then you go back in, you start filling all your voids with your bigger stone first. Bigger packing stone. You don't take gravel, never take gravel and pour it in. So I'm just really trying to get all my nooks and crannies filled in here, get everything up to basically this height. So front stone, back stone, and then I'll basically try to get everything to this, you know, the height of this stone. As we can see right here, I need to now come back in and fill that, but I got this one set and I got this one setting in there, and then, you know, same thing with these guys here. I'm gonna, you know, readjust those. So as we got to the top of the wall, we're now a little over 4 feet on that. And that's for the most part the construction methods that I'm using. This would be the same with any size retaining wall. The rule of thumb is typically, for whatever your height is, say it's a 10-foot high wall, then your base should be divided by 2, which would be 5 feet. And that's kind of a normal rule of thumb. Now, when I get into shorter walls, I do typically, if I say have a wall that's like 24 inches, I typically will build that about 24 inches wide in order to have nice flat caps, because chances are it's going to be a sitting wall. So that's the top side. Just spinning around here. So you can see this face as it curves around there with the seating boulder. Just to conclude here, the equipment that I'm using on this job are 2 things. I'm basically using the mini excavator, which has the thumb, hydraulic thumb, which allows me to set the stones. Now the problem is my thumb reach is only so wide, so when I get into, say, like a longer stone such as that one, which is tying back in, I can't really set it. It's really tricky. I got to set it maybe spinning around. I like to use the ditch witch. This is the SK 850 with the plus, which has the weight kit, which is really the equivalent of like a 1050. So it's a 10,000 pound machine. It can lift about 15, no problem, all day long. So I use a bucket for put my packing in, gathering up dirt to put behind the wall. And as I'm coming up, I'm taking each course and I'm, you know, putting earth behind the wall and then just driving over it, or say you were like walking on it if you were building a small wall. I'm also using forks on this. I like the 3-foot forks, a little shorter, 36 inches, so I can get in and out because of the tight space, the working space below. I use the forks in order to lift up a lot of the boulders and sometimes set those on the front. So a boulder such as this one, which I set, I pretty much bring it in with that machine and set it where I need to, and then I might use that to either bump it back because the face is sticking forward a little bit, or use the mini to spin things around. So that pretty much concludes this boulder construction. I hope you found some of these methods helpful. If you found this information worthy of a comment, please do give us a thumbs up. And if you have not subscribed to the channel, come on now, let's do it now. Thank you again, and we'll be back soon.